Alternative Radio with John Girardi on Power Talk 96.7 AM 1400.
With the threat of Roe v. Wade going the way of the dodo bird, California has decided to ramp up its efforts to become an abortion magnet, a haven for people in other states to travel to in order to have abortions. Breaking it down for you today is me, John Girardi, the director of Right to Life of Central California, and joining me, as always, the man of the hour, Mr. Jonathan Keller.
That's me.
There you go.
Happy to be here.
From CEO of California Family Council. Okay, so Jonathan, when this story broke back in around December 8th, this story broke about this commission, this California commission that was set up to basically to provide abortion for everyone in America, or anyone in America whose state might have limited abortion in any way, shape, or form, and spend gobs and gobs of money to fund it. You and I both wound up getting bombarded with several press requests from entities all over the state. Hey, what do you think about this? California's going to become a sanctuary state for abortion, blah, 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 blah. So we have discussed this a lot. We have not yet had the chance to sit down and put our heads together and talk this out. So I have there were a number of stories about this. I'm going to pull up the AP story about it.
AP story was the most fair, the most
Although it even had a little sneaky sentence in there that I'm going to see if you catch that it told me that the person who wrote it was obviously briefed by Planned Parenthood.
I think I know which one you mean,
okay,
but
let's see if you think of the same sentence that I think of. Okay, so this is from the AP. California plans to be abortion sanctuary if Roe overturned. With more than 24 states poised to ban abortion if the U.S. Supreme Court gives them the okay next year, California clinics and their allies in the state legislature on Wednesday, California abortion clinics and their allies, revealed a plan to make the state a, quote, sanctuary for those seeking reproductive care, including possibly paying for travel, lodging, and procedures for people from other states. The California Future of Abortion Council, made up of more than... Notice that the mask is off, apparently, that we're talking about the California Future of Abortion Council.
Yes.
Not the future of reproductive care or reproductive rights or even abortion care. What we want are more abortions. Anyway, the California Future of Abortion Council, made up of more than 40 abortion providers and advocacy groups, released a list of 45 recommendations for the state to consider if the High Court overturns Roe v. Wade, the 48-year-old decision that forbids states from outlawing abortions. That's actually a good framing of what Roe v. Wade actually does. Anyway, the recommendations are not just a liberal fantasy. Yes, because in California, liberal fantasies become reality. Some of the state's most important policymakers helped write them, including Tony Atkins. I just want you to know that this sound effect does not equate to endorsement or opposition to any candidate or candidates. Right to Life Central California is a non-profit organization. I'm only talking about this in the context of Senator Atkins' abortion advocacy, in which I say... Tony Atkins, the San Diego Democrat who leads the state Senate and attended multiple meetings. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, I will make a similar sound effect with the similar intent, started the group himself. So it's some like governor's council thing that he convened in order to give it some kind of like air of authority or authoritativeness. Started the group himself, and in an interview last week with the AP, said some of the report's details will be included in his budget proposal in January. I will note, by the way, that Republicans, not that all Republicans are pro-life, but Republicans have fewer than 1/4 of the votes in either house of the state legislature. So, and you need at least 1/3 of the votes to stop a state budget from being passed. So, ergo, other than Rudy Salas from Bakersfield, all the Democrats, I think, are pro-choice in the state assembly and state senate. So if they want to do this, if the Democrats decide they want to do this, they will do this.
Yep.
We'll be a sanctuary, Newsom said, adding he's aware patients will likely travel to California from other states to seek abortions. We are looking at ways to support that inevitability. Well, it's not an inevitability. I mean, if you roll out the red carpet for them, yeah, they probably will. And looking at ways to expand our protections. Abortion, perhaps more than any other issue, has divided the country for decades along mostly traditional partisan lines. A new decision overturning Roe v. Wade, which could come next summer, would be the culmination of more than 40 years of conservative activism. But Wednesday's report offers a first glimpse of how Democratic-dominated states could respond and how the debate over abortion access, there's that word, there's that magic word, abortion access, would change. California already pays for abortions for many low-income residents through the state's Medicaid program, Medi-Cal.
Yep.
And California is one of the 6 states that require private insurance companies to cover abortion, although many patients still end up paying deductibles and co-payments.
That's SB 245.
That's the sentence that I thought that made me think this guy was briefed. Was that the one you had in mind?
No, I've got another one.
Oh, you had a different one.
It's a single word, and I'll see if you catch it. Keep
all
reading.
right. Well, I'll keep reading. Okay, so just to explain what I'm talking about here, he has this sentence here. California is one of 6 states that require private insurance companies to cover abortion, although many patients still end up paying deductibles and co-payments. There was a bill in front of the state legislature last year that would have abolished all out-of-pocket expenses for abortion for anyone with insurance, all deductibles, all co-pays. The fact that this reporter mentions many patients still end up paying deductibles and co-payments, well, duh. Even if you're on, even if you're on Medi-Cal, you have deductibles and co-pays and things like that. He inserted that, I'm sure, because he was briefed about this by Planned Parenthood. And it's someone from Planned Parenthood put that bug in his ear.
And if you read into the report, John, I had actually not realized this, but if you kind of drill down, there's a specific thing where they mention SB 245, and they say, to implement these, Governor Newsom should immediately
should have signed SB 245.
Yes.
But money, the article continues, but money won't be a problem for state-funded abortion services for patients from other states. California's coffers have soared throughout the pandemic, fueling a record budget surplus this year.
I got to interject here.
Go for it.
I did an interview with a news station. I don't remember which one it was, but I was going back and watching it. And I was grateful for the opportunity. Thank you for including our perspective.
Yeah.
But of course, the one thing out of all the things I talked about why abortion is bad, and I specifically prefaced it by saying, look, taxpayer funding is the lowest of the objections we have to abortion. Mm-hmm. I mean, but I said, look, I would much prefer that, I think that California taxpayers are not going to go for this. I don't think they like the idea of using taxpayer funds to pay for out-of-state people to come here and kill their children.
Right.
And then I pointed out in the same piece, look, I would much rather that we use taxpayer funds to create a support network and offer more policies and resources to women facing unplanned pregnancies.
Right.
And the reporter, again, like you said, kind of just a little tip of the hat.
Yeah.
Immediately after they cut off that part of the clip where I said, well, why don't we do this? She goes, but that would also cost taxpayer money. And I'm like, yes,
we know.
I just happen to think that
taxpayer money for murder is much worse than taxpayer money for anything else. Almost
all taxpayer expenditures are not created equal. I am not a anarcho-capitalist who thinks, oh yes, you should never spend government money for anything.
No, like sometimes the stuff you spend money on is good,
and
sometimes the money you spend is bad.
If you have a choice, killing unborn children from out of state, or providing resources for their families.
Jonathan Keller, shocking hypocrite, doesn't want state funding for abortion, but does want state funding to repair Highway 99.
Mea culpa.
Yeah.
Mea culpa.
What? You like it when the government spends money on good things, but not on bad things?
Sorry.
Anyway. That is funny, geez. Next year, the state's Independent Legislative Analyst's Office predicts California will have a surplus of about $31 billion. Imagine how much of a surplus we'd have if we didn't have like high-speed rail and dumping money into embryo-destructive stem cell research. California, sorry about that. That was unnecessary commentary on the high-speed rail system. Carry on. It's a great system. California's affiliates of Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion provider, got a sneak preview of how people might seek abortions outside their home states this year when a Texas law that outlawed abortion after 6 weeks of pregnancy was allowed to take effect. California clinics reported a slight increase in patients from Texas. So it's like, here's our paragraph justifying all of this new spending. And, we got a sneak preview of what might happen. A slight increase of patients for Texas. What does that mean? Did 2 people from Texas come to California? Did 20 people? Did 200 people come? Like what does a slight increase mean? This is relevant data, folks. Now California abortion providers are asking California to make it easier for those people to get to the state. The report recommends, and this is the some of the grossest stuff. So the report recommends funding, including public spending, to support patients seeking abortion for travel expenses such as gas, lodging, transportation, and childcare. Now, Jonathan, I think you had the best insight into the childcare aspect of it.
I just earlier this week we got off a Zoom call talking about this, and I said there is something particularly macabre and just evil. I mean, it is.
It's just evil. It's just evil.
It's dystopian.
Yeah.
The idea that you tell a poor woman in Alabama or Texas or Oklahoma, hey, look, I know you're having a hard time there, and you got 2 kids, you got one on the way, and having trouble making ends meet. Look, why don't you fly the whole family out here to Los Angeles, and we will pay a Planned Parenthood approved child care worker to sit in the waiting room with your 6-year-old and your 4-year-old while you off their sibling.
Right. I mean, it's basically giving parents money for child care and also giving them money to kill those children's sibling. Yeah.
Younger brother, younger sister.
Yeah. It's hugely disturbing.
I mean, just literally, you think potentially you're going to have Planned Parenthood clinics now, potentially, with childcare rooms.
Yeah, or I don't know, or just direct stipends to people from other states to pay for, I don't know, daycare while you go to abort your kid. I don't know exactly what form this is going to take. It's unclear how many people would come to California for abortions if Roe v. Wade is overturned. California does not collect or report abortion statistics. The Guttmacher Institute, a research group that supports abortion rights, well, at least they identified the Guttmacher group as being something that's pro-abortion.
Yes.
Like usually it's just the Guttmacher Institute, reproductive health research.
And anyway. I do wonder, I actually did reference that to the reporter.
To the reporter.
So I kind of wonder if he was aware of that before.
Because you're quoted in here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At the very bottom.
Yeah, at the very bottom. Yeah, of course.
Well, I will say, just when you get to it, I was surprised that they actually let us pro-life advocates have the final word.
Yeah, that's true.
That was encouraging, at least.
Yeah. A research group that supports abortion rights said 132,680 abortions were performed in California in 2017, or about 15% of all abortions nationally. Gosh, that's a disgusting number. 132,000 abortions just in California in 1 year. That number includes people from out of state as well as teenagers who are not required to have their parents' permission for an abortion in California. Also pre-teenagers, I'll note. Planned Parenthood, which accounts for about half of California's abortion clinics, said it served 7,000 people from other states last year. Okay, so you're talking about at least 10,000 people from out of state coming to California for abortions.
Yeah.
A huge influx of people from other states, quote, will definitely destabilize the abortion provider network, said Fabiola Carrion, interim director for reproductive and sexual health at the National Health Law Program. She said out-of-state abortions would also likely be later-term procedures, which are more complicated and expensive, which I'm sure Planned Parenthood's so upset about that they can bill higher
amounts.
The report, anyway, we can go on and on and on with this. We got to take a break right now. We will talk more about this incredibly distressing development next, and a lot of other angles to get to, the Lincoln-Douglas slavery comparisons, all kinds of things, next on Right to Life Radio right here on Power Talk. Right to Life Radio, thank you all so much. All right, we're talking about these efforts to make California a sanctuary state for abortion. And there are a number of different aspects to this. The one thing I want to note, Jonathan, we talked about this, I think, in a prior episode. The Lincoln-Douglas-esque aspect of just saying that every state can regulate abortion as you want. So will I be happy if Roe v. Wade is overturned? Of course. Would I be happy if instead of the Constitution allegedly mandating legal abortion for all 9 months of pregnancy for any reason and imposing that on all 50 states, instead to have every state decided on their own? Yes, that's a huge improvement. To have half the states ban abortion is better than to have none of the states ban abortion. I'm happy about that. However, I have sort of sided argumentatively with, not argumentative, but I have sided ideologically with my former professor, John Finnis, with Robert George and with other legal thinkers who argue that the Constitution itself can be, properly is interpreted as defending the right to life of unborn children, that the 14th Amendment should be interpreted as protecting their right to life, that they are persons. Unborn children are included as persons under the definition of the 14th Amendment, and that we should rule that legal abortion is itself unconstitutional, and that we should impose on all 50 states as a mandate of the Constitution the fact that abortion is, that the right to life is a constitutionally protected right from the moment of conception. By basically saying every state can regulate abortion as they want, I feel like we're setting ourselves up for a kind of, the vision of the universe that Stephen Douglas had in the Lincoln-Douglas debates when it came to slavery, where Douglas was actively promoting the idea that every state should be able to regulate slavery however they want. And I think there are some people who have been saying the only way we can have stability in the law is by letting every state regulate abortion as they want. And I think that's false. I think, if anything, we're going to have much more violent difference, metaphorically violent and hopefully not literally violent, much more fierce disagreement and contention over the abortion issue once Roe v. Wade is overturned than we have had for the last 50 years of Roe v. Wade being in place. I think that the active fight will now come to almost every state capital. And this bevy of proposals from the state of California, where California wants to basically have public funding for out-of-state people to come into the state to get abortions. Sorry, I'm gasping on my own breath here. Sorry, I wasn't that impressed with my thoughts. California wants to pay for child care for the other children of women who are aborting, those other children's siblings. California wants to pay for, eliminate all payments for copays and deductibles for abortion. California wants to throw more money at abortion than you can possibly fathom. And I find it as unstable and in some ways as fundamentally as unjust as a situation where we have free states and slave states, that if we genuinely believe this to be what we think it is, if we genuinely believe abortion to be wrong, I don't know how we can last. I mean, I question how we can last as a single unified country without a single solution to abortion. I don't know.
Especially, John, in light of this particular proposal and the fact that
New York's proposing similar stuff, by the way.
But the idea that you would essentially now be incentivizing people to come to your state to do things that are specifically illegal, and
just
we're not
for abortion tourism.
Yeah, we're not talking about come to Atlantic City or come to Las Vegas for gambling because that's illegal in your state. It's like no other situation are we like, you can come here and you can
murder or come here for bank robbery.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I think it. Certainly, I prefer the situation of having at least some states have the ability to ban abortion rather than no states. But I am more and more disturbed as the reality of it comes closer of how we are going to start adopting this kind of two-tiered society of free states and slave states, abortion states and life states. All right, when we return, the illogic of California funding abortion, but refusing to cut off any public funding for abortion. I'll explain how some old California State Supreme Court decisions don't make any sense. Next on Right to Life Radio. All right, Jonathan. I want to talk about, as we are dealing with this story about how California wants to become a sanctuary state for abortion, which is such a perversion of language, by the way, to use the word sanctuary in reference to killing people, as opposed to sanctuary in reference to not killing people.
You say that, John. I wanted to read the tweet from our friend Marjorie Dannenfelser at the Susan B. Anthony list.
Yeah. If you can pull it up.
If I can pull it up.
Jonathan Keller, the
I
mad.
just had it. I had it.
Jonathan Keller, the mad tweeter, will find it. But yeah, I mean, the very word sanctuary literally means a safe place. A holy place.
Verbatim, she says, asked what California will do if Roe is overturned, Gavin Newsom said, we'll be a sanctuary for abortion. Governor, a sanctuary is a place where those who are weak and helpless are protected or given shelter. Abortion is literally the exact opposite of that.
Correct. Yes. As the state of California is considering all these proposals to make abortion to become a sanctuary state for abortion, at the end of the day, what it means is California wants to throw more money at abortion, make abortion cheap, throw public money at out-of-state people coming into the state to have abortions, pay for travel, pay for lodging, get rid of copays, get rid of deductibles, make abortion cheaper, make abortion more affordable, all with your taxpayer dollars. That's what California wants to do. And this brings me back to the California state Supreme Court cases that basically prevented our state legislature from cutting off public state funding for abortion. All right? So let's go back in time, Jonathan. A fun thing we like to do. Yeah, like in Wayne's World.
That's right. Yet again, most people, younger, you Zoomers, you kids, get off my lawn. You wouldn't even have got that sound effect reference.
Yeah. How about it, Zoomers? If you don't like it, then you can leave. That's like a classic grumpy old person thing. Like when you get upset with something, like if you get upset with someone and your reaction is, if you don't like it, then get out. That's how you know you're grumpy. Anyway, so back in the 70s, the U.S. Congress, fresh off of the issuing of Roe v. Wade, came to a kind of compromise. And Democrats adopted this compromise. Republicans obviously pushed this compromise of the Hyde Amendment. All right? So the idea is, all right, we have legal abortion now. At the very least, though, we don't know that it needs to be publicly funded. All right? That we don't think taxpayers need to pay for abortions. It's a very controversial issue, highly controverted. A lot of people think abortion's okay. A lot of people think abortion is completely evil. So we're not going to force taxpayers to fund abortion. And the Hyde Amendment reflects that principle. The Hyde Amendment is this rider that gets attached to the federal budget essentially every year. And it basically says no public funding directly to fund abortion through federal health care programs, and that's chiefly through Medicaid. Okay. At the same time, the state of California, which always has had a Democrat-dominated state legislature, but has often had Republican governors, the state of California was considering a similar compromise. State legislature was basically saying, okay, well, we have legal abortion, but we don't know that it needs to be funded with taxpayer dollars. And so legislators in California, many of them Democrats, because, again, Democrats have held the majority in the state legislature for, since time immemorial, pretty much, other than a few brief instances where Republicans briefly captured the state Senate or state assembly. I can't remember if it's the assembly that's always been Democrat or the Senate. Anyway.
Very brief.
The Democrat-dominated state legislature passed legislation to do a mini Hyde Amendment for California to cut off public funding of abortion in California, and that's chiefly through Medi-Cal. Okay? So Medi-Cal, as California's iteration of the federal Medicaid program, it has some streams of federal funding. It has some streams of state funding. The federal government passed the Hyde Amendment to cut off the federal streams of money, but California was still paying for it with state dollars. The legislature tried to pass this, and the ACLU of Northern California stepped in. This is why I hate the ACLU in general, is perhaps this series of lawsuits more than any other. So the ACLU sues, and they basically make the contention that abortion is protected under the California state Constitution, which has provisions very similar to the federal Constitution's 14th Amendment, all right? And beyond that, they make the argument, and the California State Supreme Court, now, and let's understand this. We have the federal U.S. Constitution, but every state has its own state constitution, okay? And the last word on what all of the individual state constitutions mean are the individual state Supreme Courts. So you have a federal judicial system with district courts, appellate courts, and the U.S. Supreme Court. Each state has a similar system of courts, lower courts for trials, appellate courts, and a state Supreme Court. Every state has its own state Supreme Court. California is no exception. So our state Supreme Court interpreted the California state constitution.
Yes.
They interpreted it as guaranteeing a right to abortion. But beyond that, they struck down the state legislature's attempt to ban state funding for abortion on the grounds that the state of California has to be neutral and respect a woman's right to choose to such an extent that they cannot favor or disfavor abortion in any way, shape, or form, and that now that the state has started paying for abortion, now that it's a legal service, it can't cut that funding off. So basically, they said because, Medi-Cal is paying for pregnancy and childbirth, that you can't ban state funding for abortion, that it violates the California state constitution to do that. So basically that the state can't cut off federal funding, can't cut off state funding for abortion because it would tilt the scales. It would be the state picking and choosing which service they favor, abortion or childbirth. Now, if you thought the U.S. Supreme Court was full of nut jobs and quacks for reading a right to abortion somewhere hidden in the 14th Amendment, let me tell you, the California State Supreme Court is just as bad. Okay.
Well, John, look, it's not like there is an exact line in the California state constitution, like in Article 1, Section 7 of the Declaration of Rights, subsection A, that says a person may not be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law or denied equal protection of laws. I mean,
it's the exact same thing as the 14th Amendment. So they're reading a stronger right to abortion from the same verbiage than the U.S. Supreme Court reads from that same verbiage. So now, why am I bringing this up? Here's California looking nationwide and seeing the distinct possibility that Roe v. Wade's going to be overturned and saying, all right, well, we want to be an abortion sanctuary. So how are we going to be an abortion sanctuary? We're going to have California state taxpayer dollars pay for every single part of abortion. We're going to pay for out-of-state people to have abortions. We're going to pay for their travel expenses. We're going to pay for child care for them so that they can have child care as they're killing the child's sibling. We're going to pay, we're going to, force insurance companies to cover abortion. We're going to, we're going to probably attempt, I'm sure we're going to see this upcoming year, attempt to eliminate deductibles and copays for abortion. We've already mandated that if someone else on your insurance plan gets an abortion, that they can keep that secret from you. If your daughter has an abortion using your insurance, they can keep that secret for you, which, by the way, is not so much to protect the child as it is to give a big fat payday to Planned Parenthood, because then they can get a private insurance-funded abortion reimbursement rather than a Medi-Cal reimbursement, which is a lot less. So I'm sure the California State Supreme Court would never even entertain this because, again, it's full of radical liberals. Even the Republican judge, you had Arnold. The best person you could have picking a California State Supreme Court judge is like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something, and God help us, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a super pro-choice. So we have all of these Jerry Brown picks. The California State Supreme Court is super left wing. But here's the point that I want to make, and that Supreme Court case, that California State Supreme Court case, was called Committee to Defend Reproductive Rights versus Myers from 1981. Are the principles from the Myers case about the state being neutral on abortion, can't we make the reverse argument now that basically the state of California is paying for absolutely everything under the sun to make your ability to get an abortion as cheap and as quick and as easy as possible, especially if California adopts all these crazy proposals for making us a sanctuary abortion state. Meanwhile, for actually having a child, yes, I know we have generous, social welfare programs in the state. We pay for a lot of aspects of pregnancy, but not all of it. And I know here in the San Joaquin Valley, lack of access to prenatal care is a huge problem. That's why we're starting the Obria clinics. We are furnishing state funding for abortion far more vigorously, far more completely than we are state funding for childbirth. Now, I don't think the state Supreme Court cares about being logically consistent here, but it's so disgusting to see the state bend over backwards for abortion way more so than for actual childbirth. We'll be back with more on this topic right after the break. This is Right to Life Radio right here on Power Talk. I just want to end, Jonathan, on kind of a chipper, positive note.
Okay.
All right.
It's appropriate given the Christmas season.
And it applies to what we're doing at Right to Life with our Obria clinic. So I've made the point that California seems much more vigorous to furnish money for abortion almost now than they are to furnish money for childbirth. And a lot of people say, what's the challenge to the pro-life world if Roe is overturned? There are a lot of challenges. One is that the fight goes to every state now. Even here in California, I believe there are political possibilities for us when it comes to abortion that were never available to us before Roe. I think we could do things with ballot initiatives. Why couldn't we try to ban third trimester abortions? Why couldn't we try to ban, maybe if these proposals from the Democrats are a step too far and are politically unpopular, could we try to do, initiatives like referendum initiatives to repeal some of these laws if they get passed? There's a political opportunity for us, even in a deep blue state like California, to try to chip away at abortion for some of its most dramatic aspects.
I also think, John, that there's going to be the potential of overreach
on the part of the Democrat, on the part of the pro-choice side,
because as I said in one of the interviews I did, it really is amazing to me when you think about it. There are lots of people that have access to or have substandard access to healthcare around the country.
Yeah,
there's people that need dialysis treatments.
There are people in the San Joaquin Valley who need prenatal care.
Yep. And it's just interesting to me that Gavin Newsom is not talking about scholarships to underwrite insulin for our diabetic friends, or dialysis for our people with kidney failure, or even
throwing billions of dollars to open more FQHCs or community clinics for prenatal care,
or heck, yes, even to provide free medical care so you can deliver your child.
Yeah,
if you are a mother with 3 kids and you're pregnant, Gavin Newsom's not paying for you to fly to California or even fly from your house in Bishop or in Redding to a world-class medical center to get care for your high-risk neonatal ICU child.
Right.
Instead, he's saying, there is a singular type of medical procedure that we think is more important and supersedes the value and the preference and the priority of every other medical procedure in the state of California.
Right. And it sort of belies the whole notion. Oh, it's just basic, essential women's health care. No. Nope. If it was that, you would treat it differently, because you're treating this you're treating it with way more preference than actual prenatal health care.
Heck of a lot of women of childbearing age that have endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Right. And I'll conclude with this, because it ties into what we're doing with Obria. The challenge to the pro-life world, both in states that are going to ban abortion and in states that are going to become abortion magnets like California, is that there are going to be a lot of women struggling with a lot of difficult situations who are going to be hurting and who are going to need help. And the pro-choice side is so blinded, I think, by their abortion ideology that they won't have the means to actually help them. So what we need to do as a pro-life community is step up our efforts even more. Give more time to clinics that help women from a pro-life perspective. That's what we're doing with the Obria clinics of Central California. Look, the Central Valley has a huge number of people who are lower income, not enough places that are serving Medi-Cal patients or women with no insurance who need prenatal care. A lot of women their prenatal care consists of crashing an ER at St. Agnes or something. It's not great. It leads to low birth weights. Lack of access to prenatal care correlates strongly with abortion choice. We are establishing the Obria Clinic to address that. that is, we as a pro-life community need to walk the walk. Not that we haven't been walking the walk, not that we haven't been heroically giving and sacrificing and doing what we can, but I think the fight is going to shift now from, arguments about abortion rights, whatever, to practically let's help as many people as we can. So, in light of that, maybe think about an end-of-the-year gift to Right to Life. Maybe think about an end-of-the-year gift to Obria. Consider helping us in any way we can in our efforts to do all this good work here in the San Joaquin Valley. That'll do it for Right to Life Radio. We'll see you next time on Power Talk.